Hello, everybody. This is Caitlin with Mr. Ron LeGrand. How are you doing today, Ron?
I'm excellent.
Okay, so
We just had our 4th of July lunch here at Global, middle of the day, and all the employees came down and eat. I'll be tasting it for a while.
lots of good food. Now it's time for an afternoon nap.
Yeah, that's why I'm on my couch.
Awesome. Well, we're doing another week of Ask Ron questions. We only have 4 this week. Our first one is from Patrick Delaney of Kentucky.
Pat?
I have a quick question. Does anyone use a straight option to profit from Fizbos?
You do, and I do it still every once in a while. All that means is you have the option to buy, but you do not have the right to put a tenant buyer in it, so therefore there's no income on the property for you. So your only play is to option it for price A and sell it for price B. So if that's the case, you're going to be selling it to a qualified cash or a cash buyer. So you want to make sure there's a big enough spread in there to make it worth your while in case you have to discount the price to get it sold. And that there's no underlying conditions such as it needs repairs so that you can't sell it retail without somebody repairing it, because you're not going to touch it if you don't own it. So if it's a gorgeous property and you can get it cheap enough to make you want to try to sell it at a higher price, sure. Or even a piece of land. You can option a piece of land and sell it for a higher price. In fact, that's what most of the companies that furnish the lots to the fast food companies like McDonald's, they go put it under contract and option it and then flip it to the prospective company that they kind of work for, but they're not on their payroll, but they know what parameters they're looking for. So yeah, options are a big thing, always have, always will be, but I don't teach it much because, again, the only way you can get out of it is to cash out of it. I kind of like the ongoing revenue of controlling the property for a longer time, but it's really no more than wholesaling a house. The difference is you're putting an option on it that you may buy. Purchase and sale agreement says that you will buy, but there's no penalty if you don't buy except the earnest money deposit, so they're almost the same thing.
Okay. He also asks, how do you handle a situation where you get an option on a property and you have a buyer wanting to view the property, but the seller insists to be present during that showing?
Well, that would be a seller that I really wouldn't like to deal with very much, because if I have to have them present during every showing, I'm going to lose interest. Realtors don't have the seller present during every showing. I don't know why you should. I would just negotiate with the seller. If I got to call you into it every time, I'm going to go find something else to do, to tell you the truth.
Okay. Our next one's from Lenny Morani of California.
Lenny?
Regarding Fizbo lead service, I've noticed that the last 3 to 4 weeks that the gold leads don't show the asking price for the house for sale. Why the virtual assistants decide to go this shortcut?
Well, Lenny, why are you asking me that question and not your virtual assistant? You should be in contact with them immediately, and if you don't get the answer you like, then you should contact Pam Patton, who runs the virtual assistants, instead of bringing a customer service question onto this weekly call. If you got an issue, clean it up. And believe me, there are no shortcuts. So if you're not getting the asking price, there's something wrong somewhere, but nobody's trying to take a shortcut on you. We get 25,000 of those sheets a month. So go find out what the problem is. If you're in business, man, you better learn to deal with problems quickly. Because if you don't, they just grow and fester, and pretty soon you can't deal with them. That's a very insignificant, minor problem that could be fixed with one phone call.
Yep, and we'll put down Pam's email below this video. Our next one's from Karina Cox of Florida.
Karina?
I have a seller who can only do owner financing yet and no lease to own because due to subdivision covenants.
Got it.
Covenants. So does that mean I can't buy his home and
Nope.
cancel the appointment?
It means you cannot put a lease option tenant buyer in it, but it does not mean you cannot buy it with owner financing and then sell it with owner financing. The association cannot stop an owner in that property to sell the property. They can only prohibit putting tenants in there. So with that in mind, if you want to proceed with it, because you know the numbers and I don't, then go ahead and proceed with it. Because I'm telling you, there's no house that's going to make me want to go get the association's approval to put a tenant in it every time I do it. I don't have the patience for that. So this might be one you just buy and sell with owner financing.
Okay. Our last one is from Roxanne Sheffield
Roxanne.
of Florida. How is the tenant buyer protected since the homeowner's policy is owned by the seller? This is when it comes to insurance.
The homeowner's policy is not owned by the seller. When you buy the house from the seller, you have to get a new policy that is non-owner occupied, which is cheaper than the seller's policy. Now, if you're talking about leasing it from the seller and then sandwich leasing it to the buyer, then the owner will keep their policy on it, but the tenant buyer doesn't have anything to lose if the house burns. You're going to have to work that out with the seller, but if you had to, you could actually just have the tenant buyer named on the seller's policy, but I never have done it. Frankly, more a pain in the neck than it's worth. But if something were to happen during that lease term, your lease calls for your tenant buyer to be protected in that process. So they don't need to get any money. They just need to make sure that the house is repaired back to the shape it was in, which is going to automatically happen because your seller's lender is going to want to see it repaired anyway, and both the seller and the lender have to sign off on the check from the insurance company. So tenant buyer's needs are taken care of. Now, what happens if they happen to move out of the house for a while to do the repairs and so forth? That's all subject to whatever all these agreements say, but you just have to work that out case by case in that 1 of 50,000 chance you're ever going to have to worry about it. But hey, we need something to worry about, don't we?
Well, that was our last question for this week.
Okay. Guys, it's the 4th of July. Sounds like Financial Freedom Week to me. We're in the middle of the year. Go out and get something going. Make this a good year for you. You still got plenty of time. And come see me when you get a chance, whether I'm in a 1-day or whether I'm in a 4-day. Or don't forget the convention. I hope you got those dates down in your book. Plan around them. March 31st through April 3rd of 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. See you next week.